Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Gaming Aroma podcast. I'm back once again. This is episode 14. Episode 14. Unbelievable. We never thought we'd make it here. But look at us. Look at us. We are here for episode 14. Excuse me, my chair is squeaking. Happy Sunday to you, or whatever day of the week you're listening to this. Yeah, video games. Sorry, it's just taking me a moment to get started. I know what's missing. There we go. Is that kind of ASMR stuff when I do that? You're welcome. Yeah, it's been a bit of a fucking week. This episode nearly didn't happen. I've had a bit of a wild week at home and in my life, but I'm not going to bore you with the details of that. I've been very much looking forward to recording this episode, despite me struggling to find a space to actually do it. But yeah, a lot of shit going on. But I have been playing some video games, so there's definitely stuff to talk about. How are you though, first? Hope you're well. The weather is shit again. Oh, bollocks. Is that actually rain coming down? I need to be careful because I just put the washing out this morning. The weather's been really nice for a few days. Like, we've had like early summer arriving in the UK, despite a couple of showers. But it's a bit on edge today. It's a bit breezy. It's a bit grey. The sun's trying to break through. Hazy sunshine. Yeah, but I think I see some spattering of rain on the window. So I'm dicing with a dilemma here where I might have to stop the podcast and run and get the washing in. But I'm going to risk it for now. I'll just keep an eye on the window. Keep an eye out the window. Yeah, I hope the weather's better where you are. Thanks as always for tuning in. You don't really tune into podcasts, do you? What would be the technical term for that? Tapping in? Tapping because you tap on your phone. Clicking in because if you're watching on a desktop computer or listening, you click, but you tap on your phones, right? Thanks for tapping in. Hopefully you don't tap out before I get to the end of this rambling intro. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, life's been happening, but it's fine. There's lots of video game stuff. There wasn't a lot of news this week. There was some really just no headlines really grabbed my attention. The main thing for this week and for this episode is I'm going to be talking about some games specifically, what I've been playing, and some discourse around a game as well, and some thoughts on a game. So yeah, no real news. I'm just quickly looking at the headlines here. There was that stuff about Neil Druckmann, but that doesn't really interest me at all. Yeah, it's just going to stick to game stuff. So at the end of the previous episode, had I finished Jedi Survivor? I think I had. Oh shit, there's the rain. Hang on. Okay, and I'm back. It happened. I just had to leg it outside and get the washing in because it is pissing down. So that's a fantastic start. Fantastic start to the podcast. What was I saying? Jedi Survivor. Yep, finished Jedi Survivor. Can't remember if I mentioned it last week or not. Which was a great game. Massively overwhelming amount of side quest stuff to do, which I just have not done. I've just left that for now because I wanted to move on. So no gaming news, so I'm just going to dive into games. There's two specific games I want to talk about today. I'm going to start with Crow Country. Anyone been playing this? So if you're in the, survival horror community, you might have seen people chatting about it on the Twitters and stuff like that. It kept creeping into my feed, people saying, oh, this is amazing, this is great, this is, throwback survival horror, like so much nostalgia and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, okay. I mean, and I saw some pictures from it and I looked at it and I was like, oh, it looks fine. But then it wasn't until I looked at the reviews and it was like overwhelmingly positive and stuff like that. And I thought, okay, maybe I do need to give this a go. And so, as I mentioned before, I wanted to finish Jedi Survivor and then jump straight to Crow Country, which I did, which is a little indie game. Let me, just to give them their recognition and props and stuff and who it's by. So, 2024 survival horror game by SFB Games. SFB Games is a British video game developer based in London. Always good to see. The studio was established in 2022 by brothers Tom and Adam Vian, who, as the Super Flash Bros, produce browser games and animations in Adobe Flash, such as websites on Newsgrounds and Armour Games. Tom acts as technical director, while Adam occupies as creative director, and they've got a few, okay. So this is, now not to put the cart before the horse or to jump the gun, but one of the things I was going to say about this game when I was playing it was, and this isn't a criticism, this is just context for this game. I was going to say it felt like a mobile game. Looking at what they've done, yeah, they've made loads of mobile games. And they made snipper clips. Fucking hell, no way. Okay, that is awesome. They made snipper clips for the Switch. Fair play to these guys. I think, didn't that sell amazingly well? Yeah, great reviews. It won awards. Best puzzle game of 2017 from IGN. Yeah. Good for them. Okay, so yeah, like, I don't want to talk them down. They've made browser games, then there's games here, Haunt the House, which is a mobile game, Detective Grimoire, which is a mobile game, Rugby Golf, Launchosaurus, mobile games, Marching Order, mobile game. But then snipper clips in 2017 for the Switch, that's huge. And then here they are, they're back. They made another small game called Tangle Tower in 2019. I'm just looking at the cover here. Never heard of this, not seen it. Murder mystery point and click adventure game. That's also funny because that also ties into something else I was going to say about this game. Yeah, I mean, all the references and sort of influence for this game are fully on display, because it's going to sound like I've just read this and just kind of letting it feed into my thoughts of the game. But no, I jotted a couple of notes down before I started, which I'll get to. So yeah, they're back with Crow Country. I saw all the buzz about it and I thought, yeah, want to dive in. So yeah, it's like a PS1 throwback survival horror puzzle game. The premise is as the character, you are exploring an abandoned theme park called Crow Country, and you're looking for the owner and trying to unravel the mystery of why the park closed down and why it seems to be inhabited by weird monsters and mutations and stuff like that. So it's like a top-down isometric game. A bit like Signalis, not exactly the same, but kind of like that thing. And you see this a lot with some indie games recently, but yeah, top down. It's not fixed camera. The camera sort of travels with you, but it's, top down. So yeah, and you got to explore, you got to solve puzzles, find files, shoot enemies, and speak to other characters, and backtrack, and all this kind of stuff. All those kind of things that everyone understands from like an old school game, like an old school survival horror game. The influences, like I say, are very clearly Resident Evil, Silent Hill influences, but then there is clearly influence from like old school PC point and click games, like oh my god, what was I going to say? Like Broken Sword, that sort of thing. Very, very kind of big Broken Sword vibes about this. And I think, was Broken Sword made by a British studio, or am I just being absolutely ridiculous? Broken Sword was made by Revolution Software. Yeah, British video game developer. Yeah, of course it was, because there's so much like British humour and stuff. And there's a lot of British humour in this. And I think the game is set... I think Crow Country is set in an unspecified location. Set in the year 1990, the player is Mara Forrest, a special agent investigating Crow Country. Yeah, it doesn't seem to say... I don't think the game explicitly says where it's set, but it has a very sort of, that American theme park type angle to it, and the police officers in it are like American as well. Excuse me. Oh, a bit windy. So that's kind of setting the scene for you about what this game is. Google it, have a look at some screenshots, and you'll see the influences are clear. The inventory screen is basically a direct replication of the original inventory screen from Resident Evil 1 and 2 and 3. It's tweaked a little bit, but you've even got the way your health works is the same way as Resident Evil, where you have like fine, caution, what else is it? There's like poisoned or toxic and stuff. There's a couple of different health states in this, but yeah, and your character moves in a different way when they're injured. Yeah, all lovely stuff. Really, really good. I thought the gameplay overall was good. I particularly liked the sprawling puzzles where you kind of the answers to the puzzles aren't all in the same room. Sometimes they're in files elsewhere, so you do have to hunt around, and a solution will be found somewhere else that relates to the puzzle in a different room. Same with finding items. They're not necessarily directly near the solution to the place where the puzzle is. You have to go hunting for them. So that's cool, and yeah, so it encourages you to look around, and I found myself like always checking the map to see where I am, and you really kind of do get sucked into the theme park and to the location, which I thought was really good. A lot of file reading as well, so if you like reading files to help you solve puzzles and learn lore and story, this will be right up your alley, because there's no dialogue, there's no voice acting in it, so it's all reading. Yeah, and so that was good. All that sort of old school stuff that I like. That there was a lot of that in Alone in the Dark recently as well. A lot of it in Signalis, obviously. The enemies, these weird little monster enemies, they range from like blobs to spider-like things to big hulking-like things. They're quite varied. I didn't die though. Playing through the game, I didn't die a single time. I think there are harder difficulties, and I think I just played it on like whatever is normal. But yeah, so the whole time, like, I was really appreciating the throwback nature of the gameplay, but at no point was there anything like majorly thrilling or super challenging. Combat wise, it wasn't majorly thrilling. It's fine the way you shoot the gun and stuff, and you can get a little laser sight, and you have different weapons, and you have a grenade. You have the option for throwing a grenade as well. There's traps are set around that you have to avoid, and don't walk over a trap or get poisoned. But it's all very kind of straightforward and simple. It feels a bit like, and this is going to sound like I'm insulting it. I'm not. It's a bit like baby's first survival horror, but in a good way. Like, if I was going to introduce maybe my son to this, or my wife even, I'd probably make them play this. I think it's a perfect little entry point into that kind of stuff that we all used to enjoy, like back in the day, which is sometimes less prevalent in games now in the way they're presented. This is a great, like, first survival horror game. Yeah, it's not very scary, which I suppose also ties into that. Presentation-wise, as I said, it looks like a PS1 game. It has that kind of vibe. Not completely, but it's got its own unique thing, which I quite like. And the characters are quite funny. They look like stop motion. There's an old British show called Trumpton. I don't know if anybody's heard of that. American people are probably just like... laughing or trying to see if they heard me right there. Yes, it's called Trumpton. There's a few other ones as well. What was there? All in the same style. So there was Trumpton. Hold on. Chigley. Is that another one? Yeah, they're from the 60s. Trumpton and Chigley. They were by the same company. God, there is some terrifying... I remember all this stuff. This animated stop motion and puppet stuff from the 60s in the UK used to be the stuff that would be repeated on TV while I was ill off school. And some of it is just terrifying to look at now. Google the Flower Pot Men from 1952 to 1953. That was on That is that could be a survival horror game right there. Yeah, so the characters have a very Trumpton look about them, which is kind of cute and nice, but I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of that style, but it works really well here, I suppose. Good environmental storytelling. You know, there's lots of things to look at in the environment. You can interact with a lot of it as well. There's multiple, I think there's like 4 main different areas, each with their own look and feel, kind of spread about the theme park. Yeah, so it looks really nice and it plays very good. It's just very straightforward and very simple. Nothing majorly challenging or scary about it. The main character is like really annoying for a lot of it. She just is very flippant about what's going on and kind of makes a few jokes and sarcastic comments, and it's like just kind of didn't make me feel. It didn't feel like the atmosphere was really getting to her. There is a very good reason for that, and as the story goes on, it kind of explains why she's the way she is. And by the time the game wrapped up, I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. It makes sense why she's the way she is." However, playing it for the 2 or 3 hours, I think I finished this game in 3 hours. Maybe a bit more than that actually. Yeah, I was like, oh, she's kind of annoying and making me not want to play as her. I think the other characters around her are more interesting. But by the end reveal, I thought that was cool. The story is kind of cool, and I liked that. So, yeah, I don't want to... I feel like I'm being really negative about it. I'm not. I'm just kind of... I think the problem was I saw so many people hyping it up online, like streamers and content creators and stuff. So I think I was just expecting a lot more and I didn't really get it, which is fine. What I did get, I massively appreciate, and I think they've done a really good job here. But as I said earlier, it does kind of feel a little bit like a mobile game. It's definitely deeper than a mobile game, but it had that sort of sensibility about it. It reminded me a bit of Thimbleweed Park as well. I don't know if anybody's played that, but that's more of a point and click adventure. But it has similar vibes. This sort of like 90s, Broken Sword, X-Files, Stephen King sort of thingy horror vibe to it. It's hard to put your finger on, but so just looking at these guys and the stuff that they'd done before, that makes sense. It all feels like it's all come together for them in this game. But yeah, as a survival horror game, it's just way too cute. Like even the enemies, some of them are kind of more cute than horrifying. The story behind them is kind of horrifying, but and the more you read into it, it's very weird and unsettling. But to look at and atmosphere wise, less unsettling. The music is good. That does help the atmosphere a lot. But I think the main character, because she's never really scared much, so I didn't really feel scared. All in all, a really good experience. And it was like 12 quid to buy. I would say if you are looking for a very non-threatening but atmospheric, stylistic throwback game that you just want to kill a few hours with, absolutely worth your time. But don't go in expecting Signalis level or Resident Evil level of experience. But really good. Glad I played it. What did I say I said on First Aid Spray Discord, I was talking to Steve about it, and I said that this is more, more Gone Home than Sweet Home. So obviously, Sweet Home. Did you know that Resident Evil is based on Sweet Home? It reminded me of Gone Home as well, in terms of how the story and the way it works. Sort of, it's just more Gone Home than Sweet Home. But yeah, check it out. If you're bored and looking for something to do, I think it's on everything. Let's have a look. Okay, it's not on Switch. It's just on PS5, Windows, and Xbox Series X and S. So not on PS4 or Xbox One. That is interesting. Because surely there's no reason for this to not be able to run on the older consoles. I mean, but again, it's a smaller studio. What is it? A couple of guys that their resources, they can only do so many ports of the game. It may come out. I'm sure it'll come out on mobile at some point. Yeah, it says here, Crow Country is a survival horror, similar to Resident Evil and Silent Hill. Yeah, it is. That's what it's aiming for. So that is Crow Country. Let's move on to the main event. Let's just think, what else have I been playing? Oh, yeah, before I get to my main event, have to give a shout out to the guys over at the Video Game Hall of Fame podcast. Obviously, my Gears Intel co-host Alex hosts that show, and Simon Pike from the Video Game Hall of Fame. One of the recent episodes, the topic was games with turnips in them. Make of that what you will. I highly recommend you check out that show. And yes, Simon's nomination was Viva Pinata. That well-known Rare game from... When did it come out? Let's have a look. Let's educate myself. It's a long time ago. I'm going to say 2006. Viva Pinata. 2006. There we go. Bang on the money. Yeah, Viva Pinata. It's by Rare. And yeah, Simon was giving his nomination for the Video Game Hall of Fame Games with Turnips was Viva Pinata. And he gave this like really good selling spiel about it. And what's funny is I think on the podcast he was saying that he didn't really have much time to think about it or hadn't prepped much. So he just kind of, he very clearly spoke from the heart about it. And it was... It convinced me to go and download it and play it with my son. So this week, downloaded Viva Pinata. It's obviously it's on Game Pass. It's backwards compatible. So there it was. Fantastic straight away. Didn't even need to buy it. Yeah, and thanks to Simon, I got to experience Viva Pinata for the first time. And I've been playing it with my kid. And that has been an absolute joy. Just wanted to shout that out because it's something I'd never played. I think I'd always just looked at it and thought, is this a kid's game? Like, is it... I don't know. I mean, it came out in 2006. I was hardcore into Gears of War. I didn't want to play any pinata garden games. You know? I had taste and standards. But I was wrong. I wish I had played it back then. Yeah, really kind of good fun, cute. British humour, again, obviously, because it's by Rare. Funny characters. What else? I'm sure... I heard this somewhere else. Maybe it was Alex again. Alex on the latest Winner Is You. He talked about how when Rare really put their minds to it, they basically out Nintendo. And that's so true. That's such a perfect way to put it. And because that's what this is. You play this game, you're like, this could be a Nintendo game. It's as good as anything Nintendo make. And yeah, like, fair play to them because I've been having fun. My son's been having an absolute blast laughing. He gets a huge kick out of just naming the pinatas because you can, obviously they come to your garden and they become residents and you get to name them. So yeah, really quirky, really fun. Thank you, Simon, for the recommendation. So your freestyled spiel convinced me. You sold it to me, mate, and I went and downloaded it. Been having a blast. Cool. Right, on to the main event, and that is the huge new first-party Xbox release this week, Hellblade 2: Senua's Saga. So, Hellblade. I'm gonna talk about my thoughts on the game, and then I'm just gonna talk a little bit about some of the discourse that's been in the news or online. Hellblade. So I really enjoyed the first one. I wasn't like personally blown away, like mind blown or anything like that. I played it at the start of this year, in kind of, preparation for the sequel. And yeah, I wasn't massively blown away. I think I found some sections a little bit overlong and annoying. I remember the bit where you're underground in the dark caves trying to get through pitch black, right? That bit really, really wound me up. But I came out of it feeling like, okay, this is a game that kind of demands to be experienced purely based off, what they're doing with the character and the themes and their whole intention they're trying to get across about, psychosis and mental health. It was definitely like a much welcomed change of pace and intention from most of the other games, like out there, like now or in the past. Yeah, so I came away from it like massively appreciating it, what it is, and feeling like I would absolutely encourage people to experience it if you are a video game fan. So going into the sequel, which came out this week, I was very aware. The main thing I was aware of is I'd heard that it's going to be more of the same. They got a bit more money from Microsoft, so they're really going to like pour a lot into the technology and the graphics and stuff like that, and produce something that advances on the original. But they still wanted to keep the indie sensibility, right? And I'm pretty sure, isn't the sort of catchy phrase that's going around, is it indie AAA? That's what they're calling Hellblade 2, because technically they're not indie because they're owned by Microsoft now, so they can't be, but they were allowed to kind of keep their small team and do what they can, just kind of Microsoft be basically hands off and them do what they want, for better or worse. So going into it, I was aware of all that. My thoughts on, I finished it, I played it. My thoughts on the game are so quite varied. I think this is not going to be like an in-depth review or anything like that, but I'll just talk about it. So I played it over a couple of nights, I think, maybe 3 evenings. And I think, I suppose my first reaction is it's really good. It's really fucking good. That is my no context, no caveat reaction. This is awesome. I think if you like the first one, you will like this one for the most part. It is effectively more of the same, but in certain ways just kind of cranked up a little bit. The intentions are different, the stories are different. The story is different. So thinking about it like from a gameplay perspective, it is very simple. It's very straightforward. It's a lot of walking and moving forward and exploring, finding like totems and secret paths, finding the correct path to go through, lighting torches, putting torches out, solving symbol puzzles. You use these weird kind of reality altering orbs which turn the location upside down and move rocks out the way and like move obstructions and put them back. So yeah, there's like light puzzling. There is, of course, the combat, which is very similar to the original. They've tweaked it slightly and added this kind of parry, which I don't believe was in the original, but it's a very small thing. And to be honest, I did not even use the parry until like the last 2 combat sequences of the game. But yeah, you obviously, it's moving across the landscapes and through each area that you go. You're sometimes with other people. The game does things to sort of twist your mind and trick you, and you go through paths and then they change. And yeah, it's more of what the original did, but in little ways kind of cranked up and tweaked and changed in a way. The story is more of this time, rather than kind of being focused on Senua's personal journey, it's more about people that she's trying to help, a sort of broader group of people, and whether she's the right person to do that. Is she making the right choices? Is she being guided? Is it her destiny? Is she good? Is she bad? So yeah, there's a lot of questions there. And then of course, like the big one, presentation. Yeah, graphics and audio. It's some of the best, and in some aspects it is the best graphics and presentation you will see in a video game. It pushes, it does everything it possibly can with the engine and it's Unreal Engine, right, to produce something that effectively looks photorealistic for the most part. I mean, it still isn't photorealistic. It pretty much is there, but it takes. This is very close to that Matrix thing we saw a few years ago, right? That demo where you had people from the Matrix, and that looked photorealistic. I mean, it just did. There's no. That's like the best thing I've ever seen. This is very, very close to that, but it still at times does feel like a video game. particularly with when water is involved. The water looks very video gamey. But yeah, so that's setting what the game is as a whole. Now, what did I enjoy about it? I think pretty much everything. Here's the thing. This is what it is. Okay. First, I'm just going to talk about, so the combat. Like I said, the combat, it's presented in a simple fashion, but I just think the combat is so visceral. Like the combat that's on display, the nature of it is so visceral that you feel every single hit, every single, punch, sword, slash, and you feel every emotion in the characters as this is happening, because you can see it in their face and the way it's presented. So it makes the combat so thrilling, and although it's very different and stripped back to the combat of most video games, this is doing something else. And yeah, I've seen people call the combat like bad, and it's just I can't really wrap my head around that. It's not bad, it's very different, it is stripped back, but because of everything else the game does around it, I feel as immersed, and as this combat feels as impactful as any combat, and in some cases more thrilling than the combat in some other games. So yeah, and because of the way what it's doing visually and presentation wise, you feel as you're in the middle of the combat, you really do feel and hear the rain, the fire, like the mud you're stepping in and stuff. It's the grunts, the screams from Senua and the enemies, and the sword plunging into bodies and clanging together. Like, it's so meticulously well done that I haven't really seen anything like this in a video game outside of a cutscene. And the combat is basically, it's spread across like 3 buttons. You've got like a dodge button, a quick melee, and a strong melee. And then, like I say, you've got that parry as well, which does help. And then you've got the same mechanic from the first one, where you kind of build up a little focus meter, and then you can kind of unleash a flurry of attacks and take the enemy out. So yeah, the combat to me I thought was fantastic. You feel every single hit, and that cannot be ignored. Story wise, I don't love the story. I'm like, personally, it wasn't massively my bag, but there's this the main thing is she's trying to save these people from these giants that are terrorizing the lands, right? That is really fucking cool, and that did engage me. The story and the narrative and the characters and what Senua is thinking is such a huge integral part of this game, and if you're not kind of fully locked into that, you're probably not going to get much out of this game at all, even when I just talked about how good the combat is. The story's good. Like, I think you do really need to be in the mood for it. I locked myself in for this, and I did really appreciate it. It didn't, there's nothing making me cry or really kind of question my own choices in life and stuff like that, but it is good. I think just this game works so well in tandem with itself and what it's doing. It's very easy to sit here and break down the combat and the story and the visuals and separate them and go, oh, the visuals are amazing, but yeah, the combat is stripped back and poor and bad, and the story's boring. But the thing that this game is doing better than so many other games do, and some games don't even care about, is the way that the combat is working off of the visuals and the story is working off of the audio. And yeah, it's so intertwined and so kind of expertly put together, in my opinion, that it just did kind of blow me away. The first one did not blow me away. This one definitely did. There's sequences and set pieces in here that are some of the best I've seen, like, in anything. Doesn't mean it's my favorite experience, but I was watching it in awe. Like, it's just so incredibly well done. And all those things kind of talking to each other and working well together. So I've seen people saying it's like 4 hours long. It's not 4 hours long. I think my final playthrough is, let's just check my stats now on my Xbox app. Blah 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 blah. Let's have a look. Games. Wow, this is being slow. Games. Where the hell? Here we go. Hellblade. 11 hours, 18 minutes. That's my final playtime on Senua's Saga. Now, you could probably take 45 minutes of that 11 hours and 18 minutes and just add it to photo mode. The photo mode in this game is one of the best photo modes in a game ever. I think the game almost encourages you to just use it because it wants you to stop and appreciate the emotion on the faces and the stuff that's happening in the moment. So I used it a lot. It easily locked into that for 45 minutes, maybe pushing an hour, at most an hour. I took lots of screenshots. So yeah, 11 hours, 18 minutes. It's not a 5-hour game. The people who are finishing this game in 5 hours are sprinting from start to finish, never stopping to take a breath. They're speedrunning it. They are absolutely speedrunning it. I presume like 4 to 5 hours is the fastest you can complete it in, because there's a lot of locked sequences and you can't skip the cutscenes. So it's not like Resident Evil 2 Remake, which I used to speedrun. You can finish that in an hour if you're really quick, if you're speedrunning it. But yeah, so this is not a 4 or 5 hour game if you're actually playing it at a steady pace and taking a moment to listen and look and explore, which the game sort of wants you to do, because there is stuff to be found, there's secrets to be found, there's story to be found, and some people don't want to do that. Some people just want to mainline stuff. I talked about how I mainlined Jedi Survivor. Yeah, but that's because I didn't want to play 100 hours of Jedi Survivor. I knew that Hellblade 2 wasn't going to be 100 hours, so I was like, yeah, I can take my time with this. I can stop by the cliffs and appreciate the view, go and have a look at some of the surroundings, the settings, walk into buildings, because there's some buildings you can go into and things you can climb where there is nothing. There is nothing but a view to see and something to look at. So think of that what you will. Some people think that's pointless, but it's all part of the world building, and if you want to immerse yourself, I think that stuff is there. So I explored every nook and cranny, took my time, and yeah, I'm looking at 11 hours finished playtime. So yeah, people saying it's a 4 or 5 hour game, it's just, I don't know how they're playing it. I really, really don't. They are, like I said, they're just sprinting through, which, I don't know, that's kind of a disservice to the game, but if that's what you want to do, go for it. So yeah, I don't know, why did I get onto playtime? Yeah, just people talking about it being short. So it's not that short. It is brief by most game standards, but that's kind of not the point of this game. I really came away enjoying it. I think it does things that, and I've seen a few people say this, so I'm not the only one saying this. Hellblade 2 definitely does things, I think, that push the video game media forward. And progress is it's not always pretty. It's not always, to get from like one area to another and development. And that's with anything, when you're building something, when you're, something socially, so, something health wise. And with films and TV and media and art, progress and making progress and developing and pushing the mediums and pushing it forward and taking it to a new place, it's never clear cut. And I think it's not always apparent that that's what's happening when it's happening. This game, it's pushing things forward for how combat might be done in a game, but it's obviously more than anything, I think, just as a visual and auditory experience that isn't VR. This is not a VR game, but it's as close as you can get to VR without putting goggles on, because of how well that presentation is, how well it's done. At least I think, anyway. So yeah, what was I saying? So yeah, progress, it's not always pretty, it's not always immediately apparent that that's what's happening, but I think that is what Hellblade 2 is doing for aspects of the medium. It's pushing things forward, and in kind of incredible, jaw-dropping ways. And in the future, you're going to see games that look and feel like this game, but with more complex systems and mechanics, you know? That's what's going to happen, because we're getting to the point now where technology can do this. Hellblade is just the tip of the iceberg, and it's doing it before anyone else. So nobody's done presentation like this, really. It's, there's some out there that's really good cinematic presentation, but this is real-time presentation as well. It's not just cutscenes. It's all happening in the game, and it's kind of unbelievable that they've pulled it off. So, yeah, what's the kind of the price of progression is Hellblade 2. This is what you get. You get a game that's not necessarily pleasing everyone, but it is doing what it set out to do. And I think, for me, I can recognize the intentions here, and I think it's clear that they have achieved what they wanted to do. This is the developer's game. It's like it or not, this is what it is. Is it my favorite thing I've ever played? No. Is it my favorite thing I've played this year? No. Is it incredible? Yes. Yeah, those things can be true. And yeah, there's a lot of people shitting on this game. And so that's why I just wanted to kind of lead myself into some of the discourse, because I think because I played this game and I've obviously kind of talked about my thoughts here. And for me, it's been a little bit painful to see people tear apart the game for something it isn't rather than what it is. And this is a trend, people do this all the time. They're really annoyed and frustrated that, Welcome to Raccoon City, the Resident Evil film, isn't what they wanted. So, yeah. So they cry about it. That's just me wanting to get my Welcome to Raccoon City reference in. Starfield, there we go. I always mention Starfield. People were annoyed that it wasn't Fallout and Skyrim. Oh no, sorry, it's not those things. Guess what? Go and play Fallout and Skyrim. Starfield's doing something else. Hellblade is doing something else. It's doing what it wants to do. It's doing stuff that's different to the first game. It is doing things that are different, particularly with the story. But I think, and I said this in my tweet, where I'm doing like a Twitter thread where I'm logging every game that I complete this year. What did I say? The point I was going to get to was about what the game's doing and what it does for Senua. So here we go. Game 25 complete this year is Hellblade 2 Senua Saga. It has aspects that push the medium forward. A captivating experience which shifts the intentions of its predecessor and establishes Senua alongside the most interesting video game protagonists ever. That's my thoughts on it. And I think this is the credit. This is where the game deserves credit. Senua is so different to, your average video game protagonists. And there's questions about, is she a protagonist even? Maybe she is an antagonist in some ways, but I think she's probably a good guy, just for the record. I think it's landed in a place that they've clearly done what they want to do, and they're establishing Senua, they're establishing the IP. They could build off this in so many different ways with books and other games and things. But yeah, the discourse around it is, it's really short. The combat's really dull and boring, and it's just like, it's just a walking simulator, and it's just, I just want to pull my fucking hair out, because this game is, do we want games to be taken seriously as art, or don't we? And I don't want to hear people trying to say, yeah, but the video game medium has to do this and has to do that. And, I want it to be considered as art, but I want treasure chests, I want dungeons, I want extra lives, I want waypoints, or I want, dialogue choices, and then I can consider it's art. And it's like, no, you can't have it both ways. You either want video games to be taken seriously as art, or you don't. You just want video games to be a way that you want them to be. This is absolutely like a masterful piece of art. Does that mean it's going to float your boat? No, of course not. And it is every bit of video game as is God of War, The Last of Us, Forza Motorsport. I'm just listing random games off. Little Kitty, Big City, Viva Pinata. Hellblade is every much a video game as those games. It's doing its own thing. And I think huge points, it deserves huge points for unapologetically doing its own thing. Is it going to be for everyone? No. I think the game has been broadly praised, rightly so. But like I say, there's just been some weird takes and discourse, like really calling it out as like terrible and dull and boring and awful. And it's like, yeah, if it's not for you, but I've seen some more mean-spirited takes, and it's like, it's that thing again where we talk about new IP and things doing new things, and people are like, yeah, we want new stuff and we want games to do new things and stuff, and then something comes out that does new things or does something different, and they're like, oh no, but I don't want that, I want it to be this other way. And it's just, yeah, well, I don't know, I'm not sure what people do. I'm not sure people do know what they want sometimes. So as I say, for me, I can recognize what they're doing here. I can recognize that this is absolutely an artful experience. It is a video game that's doing things for video games that other games have not done. And masterfully so. There's no bugs, there's no glitches, it runs well. It's like, yeah, there's the other thing, right? How many fucking games coming out that just don't even work? This works flawlessly, start to finish. Huge credit to Ninja Theory for this and for getting it out. Yeah, what a game. It's their game, and it sounds like they've had their next project greenlit as well. So it's like, cool, maybe we're going to get more of this or something else. Maybe they're going to try something different. But yeah, just because a game doesn't have, those things I mentioned, we don't have different equipment that I can wear and different weapons that I can choose, and I can't do a combat combination of pressing 10 different buttons that executes a big finishing move or something like that. It's like, it doesn't matter that Hellblade 2 doesn't have any of that. It has what it has, and you either enjoy it or you don't. But I don't know. I feel like I feel like I can come off as one of these people that's like trying to make excuses for bad things, and it's unfairly. And I know it's an Xbox game, and some people think that I'm an Xbox fanboy. It's like, no, that's not the case at all. I just happen to play everything on Xbox. If I thought this game was bad, I would say it's bad. I think it's amazing. I think they need their props for this, and it frustrates me that, and this is just like, I need to say, you just have to ignore, even if you ignore the like, console warrior types online who kind of wave around meta scores like they're a definitive proof of success or failure. There was just really odd takes from like publications, journalists, again too, we keep seeing this, and surprising takes from people. Big content channels promoting the discourse in their thumbnails, and it's like calling adding the words, putting the words like failure and disappointment on thumbnails next to Hellblade 2. You're not helping anyone. It's not helping anyone. It's not, I was going to say objective. That's not the right word. It's not tasteful. I don't know. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. It just feels like it's not productive. There we go. It's not productive. It's just feeding the nonsense on social media, because it is nonsense. And anyone with sense, even reviewers who may not have reviewed it as highly, have said, you can appreciate what they're doing here. It's just not for me. It's like, cool. But, to like say that this game is trash and it's like a 3 out of 10 and stuff like that, it's just, come on. What planet are these people on? And yeah, the feeding of the toxicity and encouraging and feeding the hate towards it and trashing, I just don't get, because this is a fantastic game. It's a fantastic work of art. It's not going to be for everyone. I think it's a great achievement. I loved it. Am I going to play it again? Probably not. I may play it again in a few years' time or something like that. May, when my son's older, show it to him or something like that. Show him where video games were and, to where they are when he's older. But I got what they're doing, and just huge credit to them. Like, it's an amazing game. It's an amazing game for what it is, and people need to recognize it for what it is and not what it isn't. This is so important. I just wish more people could do this. I feel like there's just people out there that just don't like anything. All they're doing constantly is just negative, negative, negative. Why wasn't it this? Why wasn't it as good as that? Why is it not what I want? And it's like, what do you like? What do you want? Do you just like playing, do you just like playing shoot 'em ups? Do you just like playing, RPGs? Yeah, cool. Go play them. Don't play Hellblade then. It's not for you. And I've seen some people say, "Oh, I really liked the original, but this one's trash." That I don't understand that. That's maybe the most confusing thing for me. I think this improves on the original in pretty much every way. I mentioned at the start how I thought some parts of the original were overlong and it overstayed its welcome. This didn't. Felt like they did trimming here and kept things moving. The pace was so much better. The combat is just incredibly cinematic, visceral. You feel everything. It's thrilling. And the combat, the buttons are stripped back. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I feel like Frank Grimes from The Simpsons sometimes, where it's just like, why can nobody see this? But, it's funny. It's funny, subjective old industry. But yeah. And I think a lot of this is just not, an accurate representation of the true opinions of the game. Like, I'm mainly talking about stuff I see on Twitter, and we know Twitter is bullshit, and it's an echo chamber, and yeah. But I just don't like it when I see that go so widespread that even the people that are on Twitter won't give something a chance because the trendy thing at the moment is to trash something. And I think Hellblade 2 is being broadly praised, but yeah, just some really weird stuff about it, and I don't get it. I don't get it because it's fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. Anyway, I don't think I've got anything else to say on it. I'm going to wrap it up there. I've got... What is on the docket? What are we now? End of June. I don't know. I've got some things that I want to play. And obviously the Elden Ring DLC comes out in June. Xbox Showcase, that is it. There's apparently supposed to be a PlayStation Showcase maybe this week as well. So might have some big PlayStation announcements, maybe a new Resident Evil, who knows. But yeah, I am excited for the Xbox Showcase despite, the ups and downs of the industry. I'm hoping to see some of my beloved Gears of War and all that. So I've got an episode before then, because I'll do an episode next weekend, and then following weekend after that is Xbox Showcase Day. What I might do actually, because that will be Sunday instead of doing an episode on Sunday the 9th, I might do it on the Monday instead, because then the showcase will have happened and I could talk about the showcase. So yeah. Cool. Gonna leave it there. Go and play Hellblade if you've got an Xbox or a PC, because it's not on PlayStation yet. Not on PlayStation yet. I'm sure it'll make its way there. Go and play Viva Pinata. Go and play Crow Country. Support indie games. Have a nice time. Good luck. Have fun, etc. All that stuff. Till next time. Bye. 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 Bye.